Bernie Ballers, welcome back to a Misery Monday, as the rest of us are calling an episode of the Ballin and Burgundy podcast. Yeah, it's just myself tonight, but we got the one, the only NFL insider, ABC News, the host of the Lake Lewis Jr. Show himself, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from, go listen. The one and only Mr. Lake Lewis Jr. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm good, my friend. How are you?
Uh, Good. Going through the motions coming out of week one.
Yeah, I mean, they were going through the motions on the field for a good chunk of that game, and
Yeah.
just have to have better effort this week against New York for sure.
For sure, for sure. Guys, before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe here on the channel here on YouTube, over at Instagram and TikTok at Ballin and Burgundy Podcast, and X at BIB Podcast 22, because Twitter does not like long usernames. And then head over, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, at Lake Lewis Jr. Go follow Mr. Lewis. He's been nothing but kind to us, and he is a man of the people. So go give him a following. Go listen to his podcast and his show. It is absolutely amazing. But let's get into this. 37-20. It really feels like it should be 37-14.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
it wasn't close.
no, no. It was 16-7 halftime. I was like, oh, okay, we can keep this a little close. Katie Organ misses a field goal. Could have been 16-10. I thought, all right, come out of halftime. We received the kick, looking good, and then just nothing.
Yeah, the defense was, they were anemic to tackling out there.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get out of the way of their own shadow, and it wasn't so much what Tampa did.
Hmm.
It's what Washington was doing to themselves, and Tampa just had to play up and show up and just play some basic football. Really,
Yeah.
they didn't do anything to wow you. Yes, Baker did, hide a lot and do his
Yeah.
Houdini. He did do that, but for the most part, there was a somewhat of a pass rush, but they couldn't get to him when they
No.
got close. They couldn't bring him down. I think he escaped like 3 or 4 runs yesterday.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, just the tackling and open space was bad. I mean, it's bad when a guy like Bobby Wagner is whiffing on some tackles.
Yeah.
I don't see that lasting. I attribute yesterday's poor performance on defense not to schemes, not to so much the lack of talent. There was two things that stood out to me. One, heart stood out, the lack
Wow.
of, and then the second thing was a lot of these guys didn't play in the preseason games, and they didn't. If they did, they may have played a snap or two.
Right.
When I tell you it was hot in Tampa, it was. I used to live in Florida, and I
Right.
forgot how stifling that heat was. It was brutal yesterday. It really was. It was like at 3 o'clock. We were out there during pregame. It was like 90 in the air, but on
Hmm.
the field and in the building, it was over 100 degrees
Yeah.
easy in that
Easily.
sun. So I think you saw guys start to like wither away as the game went on because there was a lot of running around to do. And that's not making an excuse because they got their butts kicked. But I do attribute that heat to also aiding in them,
Yeah.
really just not mentally being able to focus.
Yeah, I just moved up from Florida back up here to Virginia. Well, move is a strong word. I would family was in Florida. They came back here, so I naturally came back with them. And yeah,
Yeah.
that Florida heat, hot.
Yeah, it's different, man. It really is. You have to attribute the sun.
Yeah.
It like, up here you have the humidity, so the sun is kind of hidden a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But not down there. It was
No.
just full blaze on you where you burned. And
Yeah.
again, when guys were coming in, when they were coming off the field, I was standing there when they were coming off the field too, and their jerseys were brown. I mean, it just was just you could see the guys were out there sweating and playing
Yeah.
hard. But again, maybe fatigue started to set in. And I'm not saying these guys aren't in shape because they are, but there's a different type of game speed when you haven't done it in the preseason.
Right.
And then on top of that, when you have a collection of new talent that really hasn't played together a lot, you're going to have these kind of results against a team like Tampa that, I'm predicting is going to win the NFC South for a second straight year.
Yeah.
They don't do anything flashy, but they do everything right.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a sign of a Todd Bowles football team. So, this was a tough task for Washington. I did predict them to win the game. I thought they really were going to walk out of Tampa with a W. But at the end of the day, this levels to this, and this is why Tampa, even though they were 9-8, they got hot last year, beat the
Yeah.
Eagles in that wild card game, and then obviously pretty much played Detroit pretty tough in that divisional playoff game in Detroit. So this is a team that's on the upward trajectory, and Washington's just trying to get their feet under them.
Yeah. Like I said, nothing flashy, wasn't, anything that we haven't seen. The team hasn't seen before because they've played Dallas, they've played Philly,
Yeah,
they've played Detroit before they really took that next jump. We played them, I think, 2 years ago in Detroit
yeah,
with
yeah,
Carson under center.
yeah,
Um, and then last season with, like I said, Dallas, Philly always being a tough one, and those other teams. And then you have your training camps with the Miami Dolphins, with the New York Jets, and the preseason game week 3 with the New England Patriots. You're like, okay, not didn't look the greatest, but there's hope. Stuff
yeah,
looks good. Jayden looks good under center. He was the one redeeming quality yesterday because, like I said, Bobby Wagner, future Hall of Famer, going for his master's degree, wants to be an NFL owner and commissioner. He looked tired and a little worn down.
he did.
Guys like Sanderson, who's again rookie, good size, was getting, I don't want to say exposed because that's not the right word for a rookie, but was getting beat on certain routes by both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who
Yeah.
are number ones on that team. They're not even 1-2, they're 1A, 1B.
Yeah, I mean, it showed. It showed that you had some young guys that this was their indoctrination to the
Yeah.
NFL. But what I keep telling people, and I tweeted this out earlier before my flight took off from Tampa, I just want people to understand. Yeah, it wasn't a good look as far as the loss, as far as the way they played. But the one redeeming value from all of this is that you have a franchise quarterback, and that guy outside of Baker was the best player on the field. And
Yeah.
you can clearly see right now, as of today, Jayden Daniels is Washington's best talent, best
Yeah.
player by far.
Yeah.
And I think that people need to embrace that because it's at the most important position in football, in all of sports, maybe. And the thing is that if you have a quarterback, you have hope because
Yeah.
now you have something to build with, something to get better with, and you have an attraction that will make other free agents want to come play with a guy like that.
Right.
So it's only one game. I mean, it's the first game of the year. We saw some teams that we were expecting to win yesterday look really bad. I mean,
Yeah.
Cleveland looked dreadful against the Cowboys yesterday, and
Yep.
people have Cleveland as a team that could possibly get to the Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
again, it's one loss. I was on the road. It wasn't at home. No need to panic. I'll say this:
Right.
if they stink it up against the Giants, then there's panic button should be hit. But I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not saying who's going to win that game, but
Right.
I do expect a much better, more crisp, precise performance from the Commanders. They're going to have that, or they're going to have a fan base, already starting today are like, show me something, and it's already gloom and doom again.
Yeah.
It's just one game, but you should have walked away from that game yesterday really feeling good about your quarterback because he's special.
Yeah, he's right. I mean, the fact that he alone was making history, being up in the first
Yeah.
quarterback in NFL history to rush for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns in his first career game, and he had, I think, 50 of those in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is a weapon. And honestly, I was talking to B Mitch after the game on the field. We had to do our stand-ups, and I was just like, you know what? A couple of those runs, as dynamic as they were, I think Jayden in his mind was hearing "get down," get down from
Yeah.
coaches, from players, from fans. I'm not so sure if he was at LSU if he still tried to take those to the house. I
Yeah.
mean, that's how dangerous he is, and make no mistake about it. The New York Giants defensive staff saw those runs, and those aren't things you can prepare for. So
Nope.
guess what? They finally have a player on offense in Washington. The defenses are going to have to legitimately game plan for and spend a little extra time in the film room and study this guy, where they didn't have that in years past. They just flat out didn't have it.
Right. I if Chris was here, he would have said, "Oh, Heineke was at." I'm like, Chris, Heineke was great and all. Good luck to him in Los Angeles for the Chargers. But like you said, there are levels to this. Jayden, if I'm a Gators fan, I know how good Jayden Daniels is. Oh
Yeah,
boy.
yeah.
Um,
Oh
but
yeah.
oh, bring a tear to my
And,
eye.
and you know what? That's against the SEC, and that's what I
Right.
keep trying to tell people. maybe the SEC is not known for their defense across the board like they used to be because their offenses are dynamic in conference. That's college football as a whole. It's like I'm
Right
Big
now,
Ten.
yeah.
Big Ten offenses are scoring points now. But the point is, a lot of these guys that he was doing this against were going to be playing on Sundays
Yep.
and more so than not. And I think
Yep.
for him to still look like the best player on the field during those games, it just goes to show you that Washington, give Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and Josh Harris credit because they found their guy to take this franchise forward. And
Right.
yesterday, yeah, he didn't light it up as far as with his arm. I mean, he still threw for 184 yards. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't Caleb Williams like Caleb
No.
Williams had 93 yards.
3 yards.
People are going to say, but Caleb won. Well, defense won that for Chicago. Washington's defense lost that for them yesterday.
Yep. When your team has a defensive touchdown and a special teams touchdown, and that's the only points you score on 3 sides of the ball,
Exactly.
it makes it cause a pause. I mean, he was the best rookie quarterback out there. Like I said, Caleb only threw for 93 yards. Bo Nix, I think I had 117 and change, but Denver lost that game. JJ's injured. Penix is proverbially right now back up behind Kirk. And I feel like I'm missing one more.
Drake May,
thank you. Back up to Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
Although shout out to them for being the Bengals because no one had that on their bingo sheets.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, Jayden was playing a playoff team last year, on the road in this first game, and still, for intents and purposes, looked dominant at times. So again, if you're a Commanders fan, you have to feel really good about, that kid and what he's capable of doing going forward. I just think that it's going to get better and better and better. And then I think this week you'll see a guy like Noah Brown out there. I think that they were missing that physicality from the receiver position yesterday. They just couldn't get separation, and that's something that plagued them last year. So I don't put it on the offensive line. I thought the offensive line actually played pretty well under the circumstances. So everything starts with Jayden now, and I think he grabbed the team yesterday. It's his team now. It's not fair. It's definitely not John Allen's. I mean, don't get me started there. It's Jayden's team now. He doesn't have to feel like a rookie anymore. He's the guy, and he can do his thing now.
Yeah. I mean, John Allen can give the best pep talks. I have his jersey. It's a nice jersey. But when you have Baker dead to rights, I think 5 times total.
4 for him directly, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
4 for him. I think Duran had 2 by himself.
Yes.
And the only guy to get a sack, which I think was in the second quarter, was Cleveland Farrell.
Cleveland Farrell. I mean, Dorrance Armstrong had more pressure than John Allen. And I understand that those are interior guys, but let's not make excuses because these guys are 2 of the highest paid players for this team, if not at their position across the league.
Yeah.
And they just were invisible yesterday. They literally, I remember seeing John Allen one time make a nice run stuff, but I'm going to tell you, he was the first person on the bus.
Yeah.
And that did not sit well with me. And actually, I mentioned that in my stand-up that's not leadership to me. That lacks of leadership because you'd be the first person in the camera when you do well. So now own up to it, man up. You stunk yesterday. You flat out sucked yesterday. And with that being said, now you got to come back and play better. I'm going to tell you, man, we don't really want to put this out like that, but when I walked down on the field after the game, down to the tunnel where the guys were coming off the field, before they were coming in, Adam Peters was standing there, and he was hot. Mild-mannered, always nice Adam Peters.
Oh, yeah.
No, sir. Adam Peters was red, and he was – you didn't even want to look at him. You saw he was pretty PO'd, and then he stormed back and went into their locker room before the players got there. We saw it, and I'm thinking, I love it. I absolutely love it because that effort didn't sit well with him. Make no mistake about it. And they're not building a team to lack energy, to lack desire. And that's something that Dan Quinn said to us after the game too. He actually said he was surprised by the lack of tackling, by the lack of energy.
Yeah.
He said that's not who we want to be. So they're going to make sure that that's addressed. Joe Witt's defense did not look like the defense that any of us were expecting to
No.
see. I mean, they just weren't flying around. They did it in spurts, but we can't make excuses anymore. And I keep telling the fan base this: don't try to sell something that you can't sell. It
Yeah.
just wasn't a good defensive effort, no matter how you cut it.
No, it wasn't. Especially when it comes in the fourth quarter, where the offense looked the best in their 2-minute drills. Now, I mean, I love a good 2-minute drill. Those things can win you the game.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be the last thing you see when you're down 37-14. Jayden gets his helmet ripped off towards the end, and then it gets it right, and then gets a touchdown right back. And then your defense, I mean, Forbes was benched for Noah Iganagami, and then Noah made a play, I think, right after he gets on the field.
Yeah.
Jamin was actually looking good at edge rusher. I thought.
No. I think Jamin had the best game out of any of their defensive linemen. Cleveland Farrell, I mean, he had a nice game too. So don't get me wrong. The edge rushers on the outside actually were doing their part. They were even wreaking havoc and causing Baker to step into the pocket where he was elusive. But it just, your core guys, just didn't perform well. Terry didn't perform well.
No.
John didn't perform well. Duran didn't perform well. And I think most Commanders fans would tell you, outside of Jamin and maybe, some of the free agents, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, I think most people know that the three signature faces of the Commanders, outside of Jamin, outside of Jayden because he's a quarterback, it was going to be Terry, John Allen, and Daron Payne.
Yeah.
And collectively, that trio yesterday was really bad. So just, people keep telling me, well, Terry's getting double teamed and he needs help. Listen, man, Justin Jefferson gets double teamed. Jamar Chase gets double teamed. All the greats get double teamed, but they still find a way to get open and make plays. And that's the part of Terry's game where he's just got to do it. There's no getting around it. It sucks to be double teamed, but it tells you that people recognize you for being really good. So you might as well just go do what you got to do.
Yeah. I mean, Terry to go 2 receptions for 17 yards, and I think 10 of them came off
the last last minute of the game. That doesn't count.
So 1 reception for 9 yards. 1 for 8. That's horrific.
It from your number one receiver. And again, it wasn't like he was being covered by all world corners.
Right.
Tampa's defense, they have really good safeties. But guess what? Safeties got hurt.
Yeah.
They lost Hall. They lost Winfield for a little bit. I mean, they lost a corner as well. And they still couldn't capitalize. And I'll say this too. I thought Cliff's play calling at times got a little shot. Like the Luke McCaffrey play just was like you didn't need it at that point. Don't get cute. You have to get some points. And, so I wasn't a big fan of that. That was kind of a surprise to me. But again, it's one game. Hopefully they'll all learn from it because they have a really good coaching staff. They really do. Guys with experience. So they just got to collectively put something together to get these guys going. And because it just looked like the same old story we've seen for years where they start slow and before they can get going, they're already in the hole, So this just looked like a replay of what we've seen under Ron, what we saw under Jay, what we saw under Mike Shanahan. You can go on and on and on. But I hope that what we see next week is different from what we saw from those previous regimes where they just don't have their tails tucked. They come out like some wild demons again, because if they don't, they're going to get booed on Sunday if they don't.
Yeah. If Sam Darnold can cut up and throw down on that Giants defense, Jayden better be able to.
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, I will say the Giants do have a pass rush.
They do.
And that's going to be interesting. But again, I like what I'm seeing. The offense was doing okay. Austin Eckler came in, gave him a boost. Brian Robinson, when he did get his touches, was productive, scored.
Yeah.
So Zach Ertz, I think had a reception. I mean, you can see how this thing can work, but they just have to get going to a fast start. And you made a great point a little earlier tonight when you mentioned as far as that 2-minute drill. Listen, it's just tempo. That's all.
Right.
If you can have a more upbeat, fast tempo. They did. I think in the first drive they did go a no huddle one time, But I mean, just consistently stay at that. You can see that that's what Jayden is used to doing.
Right.
And one thing you can tell about this kid is that he's in phenomenal shape because he still take off on you every chance he gets. And he was doing this, like I talked about how hot it was. He was doing this in that stifling heat.
Yeah.
So, playing in Death Valley, playing at LSU, you already know he's used to the heat, and he's
Oh yeah.
from California. So you just got to let the guy play football and,
Yeah.
and hopefully get this offense going, because he's such a special player that I do foresee this offense having their time where the bubble pops and everything just starts to click.
Right.
Hopefully it's Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, you've gone over it. We've gone over it. Rio. Everyone in Washington's gone over it. Was in California. Went to school at Arizona State. So that's a hot place already. Goes to
All right.
LSU. Hot and humid because of all
Yeah.
the swamps.
Yeah.
Plays against a Florida. Plays against Alabama. Plays against a Georgia. What is the South known for besides good Southern food? Heat.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it didn't affect him
No.
yesterday. I mean, he's just calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah.
And but I'm gonna say this, and I'm not, I know Jayden wouldn't come out and say it. He did say he thought he did well yesterday.
Yeah.
Thought he performed well. He knows. I think yesterday gave him a taste of, you know what, I'm that guy. I can do
Yeah.
this at this level and do it quite well, matter of fact.
Yeah.
So, this will be a great opportunity for him in front of the home crowd. First time they'll get a chance to see him, because remember, he didn't play in the preseason finale against the Patriots.
Right.
So now, it gives him a chance to kind of change the narrative real quick, and they have to, because fans are just already ready to jump ship, and it's just too early for that. It really
is. I think we've been jumping players during the offseason, like your John Allens, your Paynes, your Emmanuel Forbes. Like, we've seen what these guys are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jayden, if Chris was here, he would go on a 5-minute I hate Emmanuel Forbes tangent. Kind of glad he isn't here right now. But Jayden, I think at least people who I've talked to are willing to give him that, hey, new season, new coaching staff, new ownership. We need to give him time. While also saying you have guys who've been here, Allen, Payne, Terry, Zach's coming into his twilight years. And based on this game and last season, Forbes is already on thin ice with this fan base.
He is. I mean, but I think this is the first player that Washington's had that they've drafted. That is, they've had some really good players.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, household names around the league, they haven't had it. Let's just call it like it is. You had Ryan Kerrigan, really good player, couple Pro Bowls, but was never considered the best linebacker in football. No. Jayden has the potential to be in 2 years, people talking about top 5 quarterback. I legitimately mean that. Like, if you see what Lamar Jackson's done, 2 MVPs. Yeah, he's had his struggles in the playoffs, but he's had 2 MVPs,
right? Primarily
as a run first quarterback.
Yep.
This guy can run like Lamar, and I mean that legitimately.
Yeah.
He's not Lamar. Lamar's one, and he's one of one.
Yeah.
But Jayden's not too far behind that as far as being elusive and being able to demand some attention with his legs.
Yeah.
But this guy can pass the football. But until he gets, in my opinion, a true number one, there's just going to be some growing pains. I like Terry, I really do.
Yeah.
But I've always said, is Terry around the league a number one, a 1A on most teams in the league? I don't think so. I think he would be a great number 2, like if he was in Dallas or if he was in Philly, or, you understand what I'm saying? So this isn't to knock Terry, but I think the fan base here gets enamored with their own players, and they try to like prop them up a little bit more than where they really are. And I think you're seeing that with Duran and John. I truly believe that Jayden Newton's going to be the guy at tackle. He's different. And I'm telling you, he's got DAWG all over him. And I think that, before it's all said and done this year, you're gonna see that balance, that shift in balance as far as that D tackle who's wreaking havoc.
Yeah. I mean, the fact we were going into the draft and we'll kind of start wrapping things up is everyone was saying John Zuna is a top 10 talent, is a top 10 kind of player. Oh, okay. So he'll go before Brandon Fisk and he might go before Jared Verse, although Jared Verse really should have gone to like Chicago. They
That's what I'm saying.
really could have used him, but him and Fisk in LA is gonna be a thing of beauty. But then
Yeah.
he falls to 36 and we take him. I was a little confused at first. I was like, we have D tackle depth. And I started running the numbers and I look at the tape and I'm like, we
You
got
just
to,
be the best player on the board for them at that time.
yeah,
And that's brilliant drafting. And let's be honest, John Allen and Deron Payne aren't their guys.
no,
They're not. They inherited those guys. And those guys have to win the coaching staff over just like everyone else. Nothing's
yeah.
given anymore. And if yesterday was an indication from what I saw from Adam downstairs, he wasn't happy about the performances of some of those players. There's no doubt.
Nope. I mean, the fact earlier today, and I think when this comes out, it'll be yesterday. Katie York is already gone. We already got a new kicker coming in, and Austin Siebert, who's radically a
Yep.
former Brown, but now it's our sixth kicker.
And listen, the only problem I have with that is there's a reason why these guys are available. I mean, there's no getting around it. It's not like you're getting Pro Bowl guys on your
No,
team. But at that kicker position and throughout history, guys have been cut multiple times and they finally find a home and it just clicks. But they're going to need that because those kicks yesterday were backbreakers that he missed. 56-yarder in that heat. I wasn't so upset about that.
right.
But the first one, you got to make that, man. You're taking them in with some momentum at halftime. They get the ball first, like you said. It appeared, man, they stunk this half. He makes this field goal. It's game on. Well,
Yeah.
he misses it, and if I'm not mistaken, Tampa went down the field and scored again before.
I think so. Yeah.
Before half, they got some points themselves. So it just you just can't have that. And by the way, kicked the ball out of bounds when they did score.
I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot about that too. I was like, it was so bad to put him back. Oh, I forgot about that. I remember.
No,
I think it was a flag too.
Yeah, that's when I knew. When that happened, I said, yeah,
Yep.
he's lucky if they let him take the plane home with him.
Yep. Walk home with the rest of everyone who deserves who can't tackle. You all walking home tonight.
Exactly.
Oh, what's the old saying? Defense was championships. Well, they also give up a lot of yards and a lot of points.
I mean, well, the defense is supposed to be the catalyst for this team this year.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be all on Jayden as a rookie. We naturally know his talent is there.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be the defense getting after guys, creating turnovers. They don't look like they have a lot of playmakers and in the back end. And Jeremy Chin, Quan Martin, they're great guys to bring up in the box. But as far as the deep ball and things like that, you saw the mix-ups again.
Yeah.
And so again, they're going to have to shore this stuff up and fix it because one thing we do know, and I hate to say this about some of the guys, but when you're used to losing, you're used to losing.
He's losing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So somebody's got to help them, and hopefully that's the Bobby Wagners of the world that can tell them, hey man, stop hanging your head. Because I started to see it yesterday, by the way.
Yeah.
I on defense especially, it was just guys getting up and ironically, it was some of those free agents that were brought over that were still out there fighting and making plays, and that's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I said, I mean, everyone's who follows us has heard. I said Jordan McGee was going to be a steal of our draft. Linebacker, Temple, good size.
Yeah, he's going to be a really good one, and I think that linebacker room misses that because he had a high motor, and they're missing that. But again, it's going to be interesting to see. I want to see if the adjustments that are made this week, and we'll be back out of practice on Wednesday. We're off tomorrow. Nice. I want to see literally what's going on here, and because this coaching staff's really too good. Ken Norton Jr. is a great linebacker coach, and he wasn't happy either. So we just need to see how they're going to address this. But I will say this: if guys don't perform, they're not going to play. I do know that with the group.
Yep. Yeah, I want to see reports that Coach Sheriff and Coach Kerrigan and everyone is just yelling, screaming, and I want to see suicides run. I want to see boards written. I need to hear this because like you said, we are so used to a losing culture around here, and Ron just going the entire game, and then seeing Coach Quinn and like I said, General Manager Adam Peters getting red hot, furious, mad. I'm like, we need this.
Yeah, like we debated like should we say this tonight? And I was like, no, we don't want to do that because we know that they look at our stuff and they're cool with us,
Right.
speaking to these guys coming in the tunnel before the game, Coach Quinn, and it's just it's just a bad opening day loss, my friend. It really was.
Yeah.
It was the way it looked. I thought it was going to be a more competitive, close football game. It was never that. It was every time Washington made a move, they would just give up points. And how often have we seen that? You get points on offense, and then the ensuing drive, the defense just lets the team go right down the field on them.
Yep.
So, they're gonna have to change some things. But I think you might see some younger guys get opportunities more so than they normally would under
Right.
circumstances. Tyler Owens who comes to mind. A guy like that. Bryce Tremaine on the practice squad. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if he lays out for that catch, that deep ball that Jayden threw. It's
Yeah.
just little details, little things like that. That can make the difference in the game. And I do know that they're gonna reward the guys that are working hard this week in practice come Sunday.
Yeah. Like I said, Tremaine, Mitchell Tinsley, who I've been high on since we got him 2 years ago. Michael Wiley, the good running back at Arizona
Yeah.
State. Chiganuzium, the corner out of Colorado State, who was widely regarded as one of the best UDFAs. I was shocked we didn't bring up another corner or a
Mhm.
receiver, considering Luke was our biggest guy at 6'2", and Crowder and I think Zacchaeus are 5'9".
Yeah, I was surprised by that too. But then again, you release Pringle, pretty much so
Right.
that you bring up,
Hartman.
exactly. And then of course, you have Noah. So now you have your big receiver. He just needs to get acclimated and get
Right.
used to what he's doing. But I definitely know he's suiting up this weekend. There's no doubt, unless he's injured. That's the only way he
Right.
doesn't play. Because they need that physical presence on the outside.
Right. Yeah. I will wrap things up and let you, as you said, you've had a long and busy day. So, Mr. Lewis,
The
where can the
bags and
pe
the eyes.
it's definitely one of those days. You go from heat to the tarmac to back home, and you're like, oh, I'm ready
All
for
day.
bed.
I've
Ooh.
been on planes all day. So yeah,
Ooh.
it's good to be home. So no, it really is, and I definitely appreciate you asking me to come on again.
No, absolutely. Last time we had a blast with you last Thanksgiving. I was like, it's been a while. I want to catch up and talk with you. And I knew when you were you said you were in Tampa. I'm like, oh, this is going to be some good stuff right here.
Yeah, man, it is. There's more to it. I just gotta.
Yep.
But yeah, you're gonna see some changes.
Yeah. Anybody? Well, Mr. Lewis, where can the people find you?
Sure. You can follow me on my social media, Lake Lewis Jr. So it's at Lake Lewis Jr. You can go to sportsjourney.com. Tomorrow you'll see me on ABC as their team insider. And then my show now, my podcast, it's newly branded. It's the Lake Lewis Jr. Show, and actually tomorrow's my first day with it, so I'm looking forward to that. I got a lot of little juicy little nuggets for people, so make sure you check that out.
Hey, can't wait, guys. All links down in the description, and you'll see it here on the edit when I do this tonight. But Mr. Lewis, I thank you so much for coming on, staying late with me as you've had a long day, and I will let you take a snooze.
All right, my friend. Good seeing you, man. Anytime you need me, just let me know.
Will do, guys. Guys, subscribe here on the channel. Head over to all our social medias. Go give us a follow. Give Mr. Lewis a follow, and tune in to his podcast, the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. Once again, guys, let's raise hail. Go into this weekend, and let's have a little fun with it, guys. Stay ballin'. We'll see y'all out there.